welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I am your host, Jeremy Ryan Slate, the CEO and co-founder of Command Your Brand. We help brands to make a big impact and using the power of podcasts to do that. If you want to find out more about us, grab our new podcast book over at bestpodcastbook.com. Reminder, if you're brand new to this channel, to like this video, comment, and smash the subscribe button if you want to command your brand and make a big impact out there. And I'm excited for the topic that we have today because really your health is your wealth and you're only doing as well as you're feeling. And if you don't have that, you really don't have anything. It's interesting. There was an interview with the late Steve Jobs a number of years ago where he talked about if there's one thing he could get back in his life, that would be his health. Right. You know, without the money, without everything else, your health is all you have. So we're going to dive into that topic today. We have a really great guest with us today. So Ashley James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
So for people that may not know who you are and what you do, Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I'm a holistic health coach. I am the host of the Learn Your Health podcast, and I am a brand new author. I just published the book Addicted to Wellness.
I love the cover, by the way. It is so aesthetic, and you know, as sad as this is, I'm like an old music head. It reminds me of a cover of an album by a band called A Day to Remember. It looks exactly like that cover. But anyway,
isn't that wild? Yeah. And people have asked me if like AI made it. I actually had to fire 3, and I love graphic artists, but I had to fire 3 graphic artists. The fourth one, who I give him credit in the beginning of the book, but he's the one that came up with it. I told him what I wanted and sort of the feeling I wanted people to have, and he captured it perfectly. Like my husband and I were just in awe when we saw it because we're like, that's exactly what we wanted. And the cover really does bring you in, and that's how I want people to feel. So imagine if your life is like this gray, miserable, rainy day like London or, Seattle or Toronto in the winter, right? Like just this gray, rainy day where everything's just sort of gray and there's no green and there's just shades of slush basically in the streets. And then a few months later, after you've made some daily health changes, your life goes from that to this. And within 24 hours of certain health changes, you can begin to awaken healing processes in your body and start to feel better. Back in 2008, I was in my late 20s. I had suffered throughout my 20s with diabetes, chronic adrenal fatigue, chronic infections, for which I was on monthly antibiotics. I was told that I could never have kids after doing a battery of tests. I didn't have, I had a very irregular cycle, maybe once or twice a year, but I was told I was infertile. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I would cry myself to sleep at night. I was suffering in a sick body, and going from doctor to doctor, they just had drugs and basically, sorry, that's that's it. This is just genetic, or you're always going to have diabetes, and just the garbage that MDs feed us. I don't bash like individual MDs. I think that they do have a good heart, but their training, and if you look into their training, it is largely influenced by the pharmaceutical industry, because that's how it works. If we look at how their training is, so
in the 1920s, we changed from that homeopathic school to more the allopathic school. So it's like, yeah, totally. You're preaching the choir here,
right? So what we have to understand is that everything is marketing. When you were a child and you went through the grocery store aisles, you're sitting in the cart, or helping your mom push the cart, and you looked at all the cartoon characters that were trying to make you feel really like warm and fuzzy inside on these boxes of poison we call cereal. That was marketing. But we grew up, loving Ronald McDonald and wanting to go to the play place at McDonald's. And we grew up with the marketing that this is safe, this is comfortable, this is my childhood, right? This is nostalgia. And that's because these major food companies, just as an example, these food companies have 100-year marketing plans. They're not just like thinking about what they're doing next week. They're thinking about how they can brainwash an entire generation so they can secure their sales 30 years from now, right? So when we make food choices, when we make health choices, when we make medical choices, we do not realize that most of what we think we're in control. We think we're making decisions for ourselves. We're actually making decisions based on the marketing that we have taken in since we were born. We've been taught, that don't question the doctor. every injection they give you is good and is, safe and effective and proven. And so, and food doesn't really help, doctors, because they have almost no training in nutrition. When you say, well, what should I eat? You just told me I have diabetes. What should I eat to not have it? They're like, no, you can't eat to not have diabetes. This is what they'll tell you. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So I went from being incredibly sick to reversing all the conditions I just told you I had, conceiving our son naturally, who he's about to be 9. And we would never have had our amazing son. And I don't even know if I'd still be alive if it weren't for the fact that I started questioning what I was told. And I decided to take on a challenge. And this is the premise of my book is I give you health challenges. They're in 7-day increments, and it's a workbook. So it's interactive. You get to work with the book, but you get to observe the changes in you, and you get to take on these health challenges that lay down the foundations of health. So 2008, there I am, very sick and just crying myself to sleep every night because I was suffering. And my husband felt so helpless and really wanted to help me. So we started watching health documentaries. This is when Netflix just started to stream documentaries. And the original CEO of Whole Foods, he said something in one of these documentaries. He said, shop the perimeter of the grocery store and buy organic. So I've
never heard the perimeter of the grocery store before. Is that because they put all the goods, the stuff they want you to buy in the middle and all the stuff they don't want you to buy on the outside?
Most packaged goods are in the aisles, right?
I never considered that.
Most things that expire, if the power went out, all the foods that expire for the most part are in the aisles, right? There might be some grocery stores like Whole Foods has like a frozen section kind of down an aisle itself, but for the most part, and yeah, some grocery stores will have like frozen sections in aisles, but fresh, enzyme rich, vitamin rich foods, living foods, right? That feed the cells what they need are in the perimeter. So this is 2008. We were living in Vegas at the time, so we didn't have access to like really great food, but we drove across town to the Whole Foods and we shopped the perimeter. And at the time, we didn't have any food restrictions. We still ate dairy and we ate fast food. So we were deciding to give up all the processed food. And we just went around the grocery store and we bought vegetables, fruit, meat, eggs, dairy, cheese, and then we left. And we chose 100% organic. In that first month, my chronic infections went away. Nothing else changed. Nothing else dramatic. But the fact that I no longer was constantly sick to the point where I needed antibiotics was a huge shift that in 1 month I achieved. And I looked at my husband and I thought, like, what else can we achieve? Now, the water's muddy when you're sick and you've been told by doctors that there is no hope, right? That there is no other choice. Just take this drug. You're taking your car to the plumber. They're not going to give you the right advice because that's not their wheelhouse.
Yes.
But I had to seek holistic practitioners and I had to find ones that got results. And so I did a lot of digging and I found some amazing mentors, naturopathic doctors and functional medicine doctors. And through that, I very quickly resolved the diabetes, the chronic adrenal fatigue, and the polycystic ovarian syndrome and the infertility issues. And here I am. So once I got my health back, I changed careers. I was like, I have to get this word out. I have to help people. And so I've been doing health coaching for 12 years, holistic health coaching. And I've done, trainings. I've also been working under naturopaths and mentored by them. And then with my podcast, it was about exploring these amazing individuals who help people and they don't have an audience, but they're help. Like just today, I was with a doctor who is the world's leading expert in prolotherapy, and he, like, people fly around the world to be trained by him, and I'm going to interview him on Friday. But he doesn't have an audience, right? So my listeners are those who are about 20% of my listeners are practitioners themselves, but for the most part, it's people who are looking to get their health back and they want to be exposed to the information that is potentially going to be their life-changing thing. Like, all I needed to hear was that one sentence that the original CEO of Whole Foods said in that documentary back in 2008. I just heard that and it went, oh, a health challenge. Okay. So my book is a series of health challenges that when you do them, you will start to lay down the foundations of health, and you'll see very quickly that you get energy back, decreased inflammation, decreased like pain in your joints and achiness, better sleep, mental fog goes away. Things come back into balance because we're doing what the body needs. Just like you put oil in your car when your car needs it. It's that simple, but we weren't born with a manual, and we've been trained by, or we've been unconsciously manipulated by the mainstream media and
You could
the
say propagandized. I think that's a really good word.
by the mainstream media and the mainstream medical system. We
Mhm.
thought that our doctors knew everything, right? Because they have that hubris, because they believe they've been taught everything, because their education has been manipulated by on purpose by the
Mhm.
pharmaceutical industry. So we just have to recognize that if you haven't been getting results and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, it's because you need to go to the right doctor. Now, the root word of doctor is docere, which means teacher. Your doctor should teach you how to be healthy. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I have learned from many really good ones who do actually help people get healthy. And I feel like I've taken everything I've learned and summarized it in my book in these 7-day challenges that allow you to, even as a busy person, be able to do them, which is the exciting part.
When you mentioned, getting over the polycystic ovarian disease, the
Mhm.
number of women I have seen been put on metformin, like to handle that situation,
Mhm.
and metformin has psychotropic properties and everything else, and we don't realize that to quote unquote fix something with a drug, like the actual things we're doing to the body in other ways. I don't think it's considered.
I have a client who, and I've known her for years. She had a very stressful thing happen, and then all of a sudden she started needing to go to the hospital and admitted, and she was having these attacks of the pancreas, so she got pancreatitis. And I kept asking her, like, what are you taking? What are you doing? Like, what's going in your mouth, right? And it was an entire year. She lost 80 pounds, not in a good way. She could only drink fluids, like she could have soup. That's it. She was living in the hospital more than she was at home. And during one of her attacks, when she was at the hospital, I get on the phone with her. I'm like, listen, okay, I need you to tell me everything you're putting in your mouth. Like, what is true? We have to figure out what's triggering this, because the doctors were pretty much useless, not helping her get to the root cause. And she finally admitted to me, and I don't know why she was not telling me this before, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't like tell you what to do with your meds, but I'd like to say, like, hey, tell me what you're taking. So maybe there's a link between the side effects you're having and the drug you're taking. And she said that an endocrinologist had put her on, she's not diabetic, but they put her on metformin just in case she developed, it was the weirdest thing. Like, well, you might become pre-diabetic, so let's just take it prophylactically. I'm like, that's off script. That's not, that's not even what they've
It's the
tested.
same thing they do with cholesterol medications and stuff like that. Like I had a friend, he's like, well, you're 50 now. We should put you on blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but all my levels are normal. Why?
So yeah, yeah. Well, I don't want to say that doctors get kickbacks. But why are they motivated to put you on a drug you don't need? And my thing is, like, would you go to a doctor and let them put a cast on your arm if your arm's not broken and there's nothing wrong with you? You just went in for an annual checkup and they want to put a cast on you. Like, we have to start questioning these doctors, but we give them too much control because, again, this is part of the brainwashing or the propaganda that we grew up with. So we have to question. And when she said she'd been on metformin for about a year, so when the attack started, I went and Googled pancreatitis metformin, and then I Googled every single side effect. And you have to go deep. You have to go to like the manufacturer's website, because there's this actual list that's a mile long. And the funny thing is, one of the side effects is hypoglycemia, and the other one's hyperglycemia. So the very thing they're using to treat it, it can cause, but it also can cause pancreatitis. So I said, listen, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you to get off this med, but you're in the hospital now for pancreatitis. You should tell them, hey, it might be the metformin. Maybe the doctor wants to get you off this. Sure enough, she has not had an attack since, and it's been years. And so I like to just highlight that if you're on a drug, 70% of Americans are on at least one prescription medication. If you're taking a medication, that means you are so sick that now this is, of course, if you actually had a problem. Some doctors, like you said, with the cholesterol meds, just like to get people on drugs just preventively. And I've had 4 cardiologists on my show Learn to Health podcast all say that cholesterol meds before your first heart attack does zero, and it does more damage than good. And I could do an entire interview just on how bad cholesterol meds are. And that if you take cholesterol meds after your first heart attack, it has something like between a 1% and 2% chance of lowering the second heart attack. So absolutely low that actually several of the cardiologists said, metaphorically, dump that stuff down the toilet. Don't take cholesterol meds. It's complete garbage. It's very harmful to the body. But I digress. So if you if you have enough symptoms, enough health problems to the point where you're on medication, think of it in a new way. Think of it as, I could get so healthy that I no longer need this crutch, that I no longer need this temporary Band-Aid or this, cast or crutch, something that's helping you or supposedly trying to help you, even though drugs often deplete the body of nutrients and do more damage than good. I'd rather see you on a drug and alive, right? If it is a life-saving event. However, many, many, many people are on harmful drugs that are not helping them. And I want to see you so healthy that you go to your doctor and your doctor says, hey, you don't need this anymore. Like, I have a client who the other day, her doctor took her off of all her thyroid meds after we made some really amazing health changes in her life, and her thyroid is now functioning properly. So this is the kind of things you can do. But the first thing is mindset, because if you don't even believe your body can heal itself, like if I never believed I could reverse polycystic ovarian syndrome, I was told by multiple doctors I couldn't. And I'm the kind of person who, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to go do it. So you have to have a bit of that drive to prove the doctor's wrong. But you're worth it. And you have to question everything. And if you believe, the mindset of healing is, if you believe you can heal and there's an image of you in the future healed, then you can work towards that. And all it takes is now information to guide you. And that's why I do what I do, because I'm here to help give you that information so you can run with it.
So let me ask you this, Ashley. Like, you put together this workbook. You're giving people a step-by-step guide. I guess, like, mindset is kind of the top thing, but like, what else should we be looking at, or what else should we be working about to try and change our health? Like, we've talked a bit about medications. We've talked a bit about, like, the edge of the grocery store, but like, what other stuff should we be looking at?
Yep. So obviously everything you put into your mouth is either tearing you down or building you up. That's really important. And of course, there's a lot of, dogma around diet, but I want to say this in the simplest terms. If it was alive and growing and living very recently, like let's say a potato, a carrot, something that was enzyme rich food, kale, something, apple, right? And it's organic and it's just recently picked, that has the most amount of nutrients that it can possibly have for you. If it was processed in a plant and it has an expiration date a few years in the future, that is not building you up. So you want to eat foods that would expire. Like if the power went out, would expire in the next week. The power goes out, you could not eat that 7 days from now, right? That's the kind of food you want to eat. You want to eat food that is whole foods. Some people want to take it one step further and go plant-based. I think that plant-based is remarkable for healing, and I think you can also do it wrong. So like people can become junketarians. Oh, I'm just not eating meat, but I'm going to eat a Twinkie. Yep, there's no meat in that Twinkie. That is not helping you. So,
but I feel like there's also a lot of nutrition. Like, you don't have to eat it all the time, but there's a lot of nutrition in that meat you're missing by not getting it too.
There's a lot of controversy around that, and to keep it simple, I don't believe in diet dogma. I believe that we can use food as medicine, and there are times when you can go whole food, plant-based in a very specific way and get every single amino acid your body needs. There is not one nutrient that you can't get from plants that you do get from animals. However, I'm not saying that the 100% of the population should never eat meat again. That's not what I'm saying. I don't
I know for me, like my body, actually my wife's body loves red meat. My body does not respond well to red meat. Like it does not, like I have all sorts of stomach issues if I eat it. So it's also like what your body can handle too.
Right. Well, and it's what you need right now. So here's the thing with diet. If we imagine that food is medicine, and everything you put in your mouth, if you took it as seriously as if you did, like, let's say Tylenol, like you're not going to just sit there and go, I'm going to have some of this Tylenol, I'm going to eat some of that Tylenol. It doesn't matter how much Tylenol I have. You'd kill yourself, right? So if you could imagine that every bite is as intentional as medication, right? If you took food as seriously as you did medication, you would already be off to a good start, because you're going to look at labels. You're going to go, well, I can't even pronounce that crap. Okay, I'm not eating that, right? Like, if you just shop the perimeter of the grocery store and ate organic, you would be automatically excluding a lot of foods that are harmful for you. And then some people can handle dairy, some people cannot. If you're the type of person that can't handle it, get off it. I've got 2 great interviews about actually how unhealthy and unsafe dairy and cheese is, but that's not 100% of the population either, because there is a percentage of Europeans who their exposure to dairy for the last 10,000 years has made them well adapted to handle it. But the type of dairy matters, right? Are you going to get the store-bought kind, or are you going to get the raw A1 cow dairy or goat milk or whatever? So my thing is, I believe that we can use food to heal the body, and we got to start by cutting out the crap and cooking more food at home. We do talk about that in the book, and I give great examples and baby steps. Hydration is another thing that most people overlook. I know both of us have been drinking. I want to show you something.
This is too much coffee, so I'll probably get yelled at because it's dehydrating me. But yeah,
There you go. So that's actually, I was hoping maybe you just had water in there, but I mean,
this is definitely so. Ashley, I have a few things that are just guilty pleasures. I love my mid-afternoon espresso. I do.
So you can have that espresso as long as it doesn't disrupt your sleep. I'll talk.
I don't do anything after like 3 or 4, because after that it disrupts my sleep.
So one thing about caffeine, though, it actually affects sleep on both ends. So because it has an 18-hour half-life, what you're drinking now is still in your body for like over a day.
My gosh.
So it is impacting, it causes your body to go into a higher state of stress. So your like baseline stress is higher anytime you do drink caffeine. Same with alcohol. For 24 hours after one alcoholic beverage, you are in a higher state of stress, and we can measure that with heart rate variability.
Interestingly for me, like, and I don't know if I'm weird or whatever. So I'll be 37 in a couple months, and I found after 30, if I had one drink, my body didn't recover well. So it was kind of like, I'll just whatever. I'll stop drinking alcohol. So for me, like, I've just cut out alcohol because I sleep better and feel better.
Yeah, and actually, it was impacting you in your 20s and in your teenage years, but your other stressors hadn't added up. So to the body, stress is stress, whether it's mold exposure, eating processed foods, lack of nutrients, which is a big stressor, emotional stress, spiritual stress, short-term and long-term stress. Your thoughts can stress you out. Everything to the body is just like a bucket of stress. And for the body, your body's either in fight or flight or rest and digest. So if you have stress, your body's more likely hairpin trigger, like about to jump into fight or flight. When we get into our 30s, we just kind of accumulated. The bucket of stress is almost full, right? And we drink some alcohol, take too many shots of espresso, and now it's overflowing. And now we're like hairpin trigger stress. So I would watch that when you drink coffee in the afternoon. Do you tend to? I would just notice this. Do you tend to wake up earlier in the morning? Like, can you sleep in? Or do you feel like your sleep is disrupted? Because it affects it on both ends. It makes it so that we have problems falling asleep, but then we also might sleep a shorter term and not get all that sleep the body wanted. So if you do, for example, let's say you decide to go on vacation and not do coffee, you go cold turkey, you might have a coffee withdrawal headache for a little bit.
They're so bad, though. I hate them.
I know. But like, as an experiment, if you did decide to do that, you may notice that you sleep longer. And that's a sign that you have some adrenal exhaustion, and that's something to work on to support the adrenal system. One thing that can help that, though, is to make sure you're fully hydrated. So I want to point out what I have here. I have some, these are just bands that I have on my water bottle. And we can calculate how much you want to make sure you're drinking. So I'm sure you've heard the term when you take your body weight. So just to make the math easy, let's say the listener's 200 pounds. And I apologize if you're not, but a 200-pound listener, you take the pounds and you divide it in half, so 100. And then you put little ounces after that. So if you're 200 pounds, you drink 100 ounces a day. But you're not going to chug that. I want you to finish it by dinner time, so you can have enough time to pee before bed, right? So we want to stay fully hydrated. And in addition to that 100 ounces, every time you drink a caffeinated beverage, something sugary, if you sweat because you're going in a sweat lodge or sauna, or you're exercising, or you live in Vegas, And
It is deceptively hot in Vegas, by the
yeah,
way. Like
well,
everything looks like you can keep walking. You'll get there in 5 minutes, and that's not true.
no. And because you don't feel yourself sweat because it's leaving your body, you're getting dehydrated really, really fast because it's the climate. So you have to know what your climate's like. If you're in you got to drink more if you're not in a humid climate. So what we do is we drink another 8 ounces or so for each of these issues, because for every ounce of caffeine, you lose 2 ounces of water, of hydration. So if you just drink, a 12-ounce cup, you need to now drink 24 ounces of water to make up for it. But let's say this 200-pound person doesn't drink any of those, we call like vices, for example, that dehydrate the body. They would then want to do 4 of these a day. So they have 4 bands, and then every time they finish one, they move a band up and then refill it and do it again. And hopefully they're drinking filtered water. When
I
you,
noticed that's a glass bottle too. Is that correct?
yeah, it's a mason jar.
My wife does the same thing. Every time we go to the Habitat for Humanity store, she's always looking for like the glass drinking bottles people have gotten rid of.
Oh, yeah. So I actually do recommend going to the thrift store. You can get, stainless steel or whatever if you don't, because I have dropped a few of these, which is a little embarrassing. But I love the feeling of drinking out of glass. I like looking at my water. I don't know. This is just how it motivates me to drink more. But I would say stainless steel if you're traveling. Here's a little tidbit. Because you look around, most people aren't carrying a water bottle with them, in the workplace, or, you're looking at people getting on a bus.
Or something I used to do in my 20s was I was a competitive powerlifter. So I would carry around like a jug of plastic water, not good for you at all with all the BPAs you're pulling in.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I say, glass, stainless steel, anything that's not plastic, but good that you are carrying it with you. Because if you don't carry your water with you, you are dehydrated. Because there is no way that you're drinking, 12 ounces of water an hour from the moment you wake up till dinner time. And that's what you've got to be doing, is 8 to 12 ounces of water every hour, or more, depending on if you are doing activities like drinking coffee that dehydrate you. So why is this so important? Dr. Molly Niedermeyer, who I've had on my show, and she was the dean of Bastyr University, the naturopathic college here, and she's been a doctor for over 30 years. She does this with the first-year students. It's really interesting. So first-year medical students that come into the naturopathic college, and she says to them, I want you to write down, like, what's your energy level on a scale of 1 to 10? And these are all highly competitive, nervous first-year students who are probably already exhausted because they're busy studying. And she has them write down, what's your mental clarity like? Just gauge yourself. What's your energy like? Just kind of write down how you are. And then she gets them to do this amount of water every day, which is what I just told you to do. And then she meets back up with them 7 days later. So there's my 7-day challenge for you. And she says to them, how are you now? And they all cannot believe how much better they feel. Now, these are all people who are really into health. They're already eating healthy. They're already pretty fit because they want to become naturopathic doctors. But they can't believe how good they feel. And she says, you want to know why? A 5% reduction in hydration leads to a 25% reduction in energy production. So that's like it's hard to say, it's all rhyming, but to put it frank, a 200-pound person needs 100 ounces of water a day. If they drink 95 ounces, that's barely a cup of water less, they would get 25% less energy production, so ATP, cellular energy production, in their body. Now, when you're exhausted, so everyone's walking around just chronically dehydrated. So what do? You go to coffee in the morning, or you go to a Monster Energy drink. You go to something sugary and something caffeine in the morning, and then you're dehydrating further, and then you crash. So you have another coffee or espresso or Monster Energy drink, or you go for something sugary or caffeine, and you get a little bit of that, artificial high again, and then you crash, and then you're going to go to sugar at night or alcohol to bring yourself down, or to just sustain yourself till bedtime. So we are self-medicating in a very unhealthy way, because chronic dehydration messes everything up. We can't detoxify, and toxins stored in the body, that can lead to, and there's theories that it leads to cancer. But when we don't detoxify, it messes with the endocrine system. messes with, I mean, if you want to get vain, your skin doesn't look good when you're dehydrated. So just to look good, drink enough water. Now, the first 3 days of doing this, you're going to go to the bathroom so many times, you're going to be cursing my name, and I apologize. But that's actually your body releasing excess fluids, because our bodies act a little bit like a camel. When we're chronically dehydrated, the body will store excess fluids. And typically my clients will lose 10 pounds of water weight. They'll be like, I can't believe, like, I can see my ankles, like 10 pounds of water weight by doing this one thing. So you will get more energy. You'll be a little bit skinnier, not from fat, but actually just because your body's flushing. Digestion, a lot of times constipation goes away, digestion goes away. I've had clients whose chronic headaches went away, things that they've been taking medication for went away simply because they needed to drink more water. Now, your doctors should be teaching you this, but they're not taught this in school, because they're not taught to cure patients and get them so healthy they don't need medication. So we have to remember to go to the right professional to get the information.
Well, actually, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I think this is a lot of stuff that we can actually go do, which is what I value the most, like things I can actually go do to change my health. So the book, once again, is Addicted to Wellness.
Yeah.
Our guest today is the author, Ashley James. Ashley, where can we find out more about you, and where can we find that cool book?
Cool. Yeah. So you can go to learntruehealth.com. Learn True Health is my podcast. And then if you go to learntruehealth.com, in the menu there, you'll see the link to my book. And you can check out my shows, my podcasts. Use the search function to find topics that you're interested in. You can also join my Facebook group, the Learn True Health Facebook group. We've got a great community there of listeners, and we love answering health questions and helping each other. I'm excited to hear what you think of the book. Check it out. And if you have any questions, you can jump in the Facebook group and ask me.
Well, Ashley, I've been following you for a really long time, so it's great to finally connect with you, and thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.